Hey, I'm Srini, host and founder of the Unmistakable Creative Podcast. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to use tags inside of Mem to retrieve information as quickly as possible. But before we start, I want to tell you about our free course on how to take better book notes that will help you remember what you learn, build a library of wisdom and knowledge that's always at your fingertips and easy to retrieve, and make your most ambitious ideas happen. If you want to learn more, just click on the link in the description below. When you don't use tags the right way inside of a note-taking app, it actually ends up making your database into a giant mess. And what most people do is they tag their notes by topic. The problem with tagging notes by topic only is that the amount of topics that you could have in a database is pretty much infinite. And this is why people don't make very good use of tags in most note-taking apps. Tiago Forte actually says that you want to tag notes by context. So what does that actually mean? You want to tag your notes according to how you might use them in the future. So in this first section, I want to talk about tagging your various projects. Every project you work on is going to have multiple resources with it. So for example, we recently launched this course called the 100-Day Project. And for the launch, we had to write an email sequence, compile a bunch of case studies, and as you'll see, it's also tagged with a specific status that says active. But there are also subcategories within it, like email sequence or case studies. So by tagging things according to that context, it's really easy to pull up any of the related material based on those tags. And you can see here, I have all the various email sequences for that project. Or if I wanted to, I could bring up case studies. And then you'll see here, it actually brings up all the various case studies for that project. So by tagging your projects with categories and subcategories, you'll be able to get all the information you need for whatever project you're working on with the click of a button. Yeah, let's talk about tagging areas of responsibility. Areas of responsibility are things that are ongoing and don't have a defined end date. So for example, for me, my two main areas of responsibility I have are my podcast, the Unmistakable Creative Podcast, and writing. So for the Unmistakable Creative Podcast, for example, my primary context tag is Unmistakable Creative Podcast. But in addition to that, what I can do is every time I have an interview, I actually tag each interview with the tag interviews. And then if I decide to transcribe the episode, I will actually also tag it with transcripts. The key here is to have one high-level context or category tag, and within that, have subcategories. Now, let's talk about tagging resources like book notes. For tagging resources like book notes, you'll want to combine topic and context tags. And the easiest way to do this is when you're taking smart notes, which we've talked about before, which are literature notes, you'll want to use the topic of the chapter within that book. And that way you'll be able to summarize the main ideas inside of that book. So for example, recently I have just finished reading this new book called Change: How to Make Big Things Happen. And each chapter had specific themes, so I tagged each chapter, so I tagged each of my notes from each chapter with that theme. So you'll see here, for example, the myth of virality, and it brings up all of the various notes on the myth of virality. And I can, do the same thing with another tag. So that way you actually end up being able to summarize the book, but also not just have a really general idea without going crazy with tags, and being able to retrieve notes, ideas, insights with as little friction as possible, but also be able to make more sense of your notes without it turning into a giant mess.